Hello and you're welcome to the Big Tech Show with me, Adrian Weckler, in association with Square. Square can help with your business needs from payments and online ordering to menu management. Visit square.com for more. Now, from starting a TikTok house to creating a payments company for influencers and selling then his company to an Irish unicorn, Jake Browne is on a very interesting trajectory through the marketing and tech world. Now he's about to start something else. Jake Browne, founder and CEO of Vebellum GIF, welcome to the podcast.
Hey Adrian, how are you?
No, I'm not too bad. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Jake, what's your background? We're going to talk about how you started a TikTok house and how you got into influencer marketing and your plans after that. But where did you come from?
Yeah, so I studied electronic engineering in college, mainly because I was half decent at maths and didn't know what I wanted to do. Got an internship in a software company that developed software for investment banks. Did that for 3 years. Fell in love with YouTube, so just watching videos online, quit my job. Parents were delighted. Bought a cheap camera, started teaching myself how to make videos. Soon friends and family sort of asked me, could you make us a business event video, this kind of thing. That took off, and I've kind of been in that space ever since.
So it was at that point that you started to regard yourself as being potentially an influencer or someone who might work around influencers?
It was more on the production side, I think, for the first couple of years. So I was making videos, sort of trying to emulate TV ads in a very sort of poor man's way, let's say, one-man show. So it wasn't until a few more years later that I got involved with influencers.
Okay. Now, you created, some listeners will remember, it was called the Go House. It was a TikTok house full of TikTok influencers in Dublin. I think that was 2020, was it?
It was the September 2020, yeah.
September. What was the idea behind that?
So I'd seen it kick off in America. There was a house called the Hype House up in the Hollywood Hills.
Hype House.
The Hype House, yeah. There was a big New York Times article done about it. It was this big, big deal. And it was COVID, obviously. My video business kind of fell off a cliff in, let's say, April. It came back in July. But I remember just thinking to myself, I don't like that feeling that was just taken away from me overnight. I want to try and do something bigger than me and sort of more secure. And to be honest with you, the best idea I had at the time was a content house.
Was it what? A content?
Content house, yeah. The Go House. So they're called content houses or TikTok houses.
Now, what's the idea behind that? I mean, I grew up watching The Real World on MTV and, the various knockoffs of that. Was it just to get people who are popular and famous into the same house and see what happens, or was it more structured than that?
It was loose enough, yeah. So it's kind of, I wouldn't say it was a reality show, but people always draw analogies from The Real World, Big Brother, sometimes Love Island, which isn't a great one to be associated with. But it was basically a media business.
But you were one of the people in the house.
I was not. I didn't live there. I was sort of more in the background. Yeah, okay. I would have popped up here and there because I was physically there during the day. But I wasn't a character, for lack of a better word.
And looking back on that now, was that a success?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. So the Dublin one was a success commercially. We had sponsors. We sort of, for good and bad reasons during COVID, went fairly viral. We used that.
Sorry, what were the bad reasons? I don't remember.
Just, getting together in a house during COVID.
Oh.
It was during level 5 lockdown, police outside calling to the door, that kind of stuff. So there was...
Because it was a Muse in Dublin 4, was it?
It was Lansdowne Lane. It's just beside the Aviva.
So there were cops pulling up outside
yeah.
in the middle of the night. Why? Because you'd been reported, or?
Just, I think we were kind of everywhere. We were in the papers, on TV, radio, and people were kind of, I think it was confusing concept to start with. But our take on it was we were one bubble. I'm not sure, if we were or not. But it was just a bit of, people thought it was great or they thought it wasn't great.
Yeah. How do you stop something like that becoming a bit cringe?
You don't, I don't think. I think you have to just kind of accept it for what it is.
Yeah.
And go with it.
Yeah. That all happened. You then, I think, looked at a company called Pablo. You looked to start a company called Pablo, right?
Yeah, so the Irish Go House, we closed that down at Christmas to go over to Los Angeles. So we restarted again, bigger creators, bigger sponsors. And what we saw there was they were being paid late for their sponsorships. So they were doing quite well from a revenue perspective, but cash flow wise, they were struggling. So we said, why don't we start paying them up front We did that for a while. Then we said, why don't we start charging them a fee when we pay them up front? And that was kind of the genesis of Pablo. So we shut the house down in Los Angeles. The idea of Pablo kind of spread through the LA community quite quickly, and it took off.
How does it work for an influencer and sponsorship? Like, what was the gap that was happening there for you to be able to intervene with Pablo? Like, literally, how does an influencer get money?
So let's say Nike comes to an influencer and says, we'll pay you, $5,000 to do a certain number of posts. They'll do the posts. It'll take a few weeks to even get to that point, back and forward. And then it can be 60, 90, 120 days, pretty much like any invoice. It takes a while to pay. People don't often pay on time. And that can, when you're a young person and this is your first sort of large influx of cash and maybe you're not the best at managing it yet, you can often end up in a bad place where you need quicker cash flow.
So you came in and you said to the influencer, look, we see that you have a legitimate agreement here with the sponsor. We will give you that money now, and then you will give us a percentage of that later as a fee for giving you the money now.
So yeah, we were quite serious about like underwriting is what we call it. We'd get only deals with contracts, signed contracts from both sides, invoices. We'd have to get very comfortable with the business on either side. We'd have to be comfortable with the creator, if they're going to do something to endanger that payment in the future. But how it worked was we would pay them, let's say 97%. So if it was 10 grand, we'd pay them.
Yeah.
We'd take 3% off the top.
You'd collect
we'd then collect 100%. Yeah.
And forgive me for asking, but where did you get the money to put that down?
Yeah, so that's kind of the hard part.
Usually is, yeah.
Well, yeah, money was kind of like our product, though. If you're selling, let's say, T-shirts and you've got a warehouse or factory making T-shirts, we kind of needed money all the time to give out. So you kind of start off small and you cycle through the cash and you take it back in, you prove it can work, and then you go to other sort of investors and get larger tranches of money.
But you were operating initially, just friends and family kind of?
We were kind of off balance sheet. So we had raised a bit of money for the business and we were lending out of our equity, which is risky enough, expensive. So, but you have to prove it out at the start.
And then at a certain point, as you say, Pablo started to grow, started to get a bit of interest in it. And you started to get more serious firm offers of investment from VC.
Yeah, so we knew we needed to hire engineers, build the actual infrastructure, the tech platform to support all the invoices to make it scalable, and we needed to raise some debt to finance these deals. So we went back out. We'd raised a little bit of money already. Went back out to the network. That went quite well. We had secured a seed round of a few $1 million. When a company called Wayfire offered to just acquire us.
Yep.
And they're in the financing space. They obviously had great skill and prowess in raising their own debt, and we knew the founders, and that's kind of where it went.
This is Aidan Corbett's firm. It's an Irish company, Wayfire. They achieved unicorn status here in Ireland, and their business was not entirely dissimilar to yours. They finance e-commerce companies.
Correct.
And they were well funded to do that themselves.
Exactly, yeah.
So they bought you?
They bought us March 2022 now.
Okay.
Feels like a lifetime ago.
And at that point, are you thinking, this is fantastic, I've made it?
Kind of, like, not really at the time. No, everything's really like, you're just so focused on the next day. Everything's so chaotic and there's so much to do, and just 16-hour workdays. You're not really thinking, I've made it. And there's a lot of pressure, whether it's raising the money or it's being acquired. You have a lot to live up to, and you don't really have time to say, I've made it.
Because often with deals like that, they're buying the talent, the people who founded the company, as much as the deal book and the business itself. So part of the arrangement was for you to work within Wayfire, right? Yeah.
It was super early in our journey, and it was almost an acqui-hire in the sense that we'd still had a lot to do. So yeah, the whole team. There was only 7 of us at that time. The whole team came across. We grew out the team. I spent the year running the business and left in May.
And how did it go in there? Because I was reading one of your LinkedIn posts where you said, ultimately, having a boss isn't for me.
Yeah.
You said,
yeah.
If I'm not the ultimate decision maker, if I can't wear that responsibility on my shoulders, it just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, I better be more careful about what I write on LinkedIn in the future. No, it's true. Like the guys are great. Everyone in Wayfire is great, and it was a very positive time. But you just don't have the same. It's almost a pressure thing. Like when you're making tough decisions and you have a lot of responsibility, and you've got a team and a business that you're trying to grow, but you kind of know in the back of your head somebody can just tell you no, or they can sort of overrule you. Not that that happened, but it takes sort of your agency away, and that's just I'm not that comfortable. I'm not at my best in that situation, more so than anything else.
Do you find you're more creative or more motivated if you know that you are the person ultimately making the decisions?
Definitely, yeah. 'Cause you feel sort of fully in control and responsible, and if it goes wrong, it's your fault, and there is a bit of motivation in that.
Because a lot of people like having the safety blanket
Yeah.
psychologically of someone who's over them, and they are part of their cog in a machine, and they can distribute blame or failure as well as success, but not for you.
Apparently not. No, I always chat to my wife about this, and she is one of those people who would much prefer to have somebody sort of calling the shots and taking the blame in some cases, and sharing success. But for me, I don't know why. It's just kind of how I am.
So now you're starting something new. It's called Vebellum GIF, and just tell me about it.
Yeah, so kind of struggling for words to describe it. What I've come up with, it's on the website, a contemporary communications company, which sounds very fancy. It's an advertising firm in the advertising space, mainly digital. So I've spent the guts of the last 10 years of my career, whether it's in video or influencer, and throughout Pablo, we had a huge insight into that industry, financing all the deals. Just general internet marketing, I think, in Ireland in particular, but across the globe, people in terms of brands are still a little bit behind on what's happening. While we're sitting here in a podcast, shooting the video, it's going to go across. Like you're on top of it, Adrian, but a lot of businesses aren't. And that's not to say they're doing things wrong, but I think the idea behind that business is for me now to share sort of the things I've picked up over the last 10 years.
And are you looking more at the creator economy, at influencers? Is that going to be a big part of what you're bringing to the table here?
I think it wouldn't be like necessarily what we lead with. It's something we'd know well and definitely would be a part of the offering. But I think influencer marketing is one of the parts of, let's call it internet marketing, people are getting more comfortable with. I don't think businesses are totally lost with that in Ireland.
Yeah, it's interesting. On the influencers, there's always questions about how to keep marketing authentic. And I mean, influencers are absolutely, and the creator economy is a fundamental part now of advertising and marketing, and always will be. That we will never go back. There still are sometimes some reasons to look at it. There was a competition authority report last year, for example, found that only 1 in 10 people trust fully the information by influencers, and that almost half of the commercial content reviewed by the competition authority wasn't labelled as advertising. Does that bring with it any risks to you, kind of when you are positioning yourself as being authoritative in that space?
I think on the authenticity part, you said 1 in 10 believe. Yeah, how many people out of 10 believe what the brand is saying about themselves? So it's relative to that.
Right.
1 in 10 doesn't sound great, but it's better than 0 from 10. And then on the standards and the tagging of the posts, I think it's just an education piece. It's all new. It's all moving very quickly. Rules have been shifting. It's a very fragmented landscape. We'll get there. It's so new. Was the iPhone is 16, 17 years old?
That's a long time.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, not in the grand scheme of things.
How old are you?
I'm 32.
Okay, so that's half your life.
Yeah. But I mean, how long? I think it's not that long. I think we'll get there.
You're used to talking to middle-aged people. That's your problem. I have a 21-year-old daughter. She's about to turn 21, and the vast majority of the advertising and marketing influences that she will get will come from creators, mainly YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. But I'm wondering, is there ever a point where you fear that we're reaching saturation with that? Because it does seem that to make money, and we're all entitled to make money, influencers, they do have to flog stuff at some point, right?
Yeah.
Um,
In terms of saturation, I think the internet is deceivingly large, and there's little pockets of people everywhere doing strange things. I think I've watched some of your tech reviews, and I've followed you on Twitter for many years, and not too long ago that was kind of a weird thing to do. Now it's a massive genre on YouTube, is to review tech products, and
Oh, yeah.
a lot of those people are paid for it. So it might feel saturated, but it's not. I think it's still really early. And I think there's little pockets of the internet for every type of person and every type of company. And I think as long as people are buying products, there's money to be made. I think some people definitely are inauthentic about it, but that doesn't mean everyone, throw the baby out with the bathwater.
yeah, and I always feel that there is a line that you can go up to on Instagram or YouTube or TikTok, and people will still they'll travel a path with you, even if they know that you're selling something, if they like you, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And they'll almost not buy things, but they'll accept those advertisements as support for you.
I think that's why Ryan Tuberty is probably going to get back on the air. I think people will probably forgive him for the whole Renault fiasco because they like him, or some people like him.
Yeah.
Without expressing a personal view on that. By the way, Vebellum GIF,
Yeah.
okay, as a name for the company, we were chatting off air about this. I looked up the meaning of the name Vex. What is Vebellum GIF? What is that? Where did you come up with that idea?
I just think it sounds good, but the meaning behind it, a Vebellum good is a good that rises in demand when the price rises. So it's kind of like a luxury good, like a nice car or fancy handbag. And I've always just liked that idea. It's not too deep, and I think it sounds nice. And Vebellum didn't really stand on its own, so I was looking for another word. Giffen is a good that rises in consumption even when the price rises. So something like
milk,
potatoes,
bread.
rice, milk, bread. Yeah, exactly. And together, I think they just kind of sound. I think you said old worldy off air, kind of weighty, and probably a bunch of people that might know what they're doing. That's the depth of it, to be honest. You need a name.
Good as reason as any. Let's talk about the Metaverse a little bit, because I understand you're a big proponent of the Metaverse.
Yeah, I'm not sure about big proponent, but I'm very open to it. I often joke with my friends and family that we're kind of almost in the Metaverse now. If you look around, we're all bed into our phones or laptops, and
Are you one of these guys who believes like we're in a simulation?
no,
Theory,
no,
man.
I don't really have a strong opinion on that. But when you look around and everyone's staring at their phone, you think of shows like Black Mirror. There's an argument made we're kind of in the Metaverse. We're not wearing goggles and we're not attached like in the Matrix, but we're not paying attention to the world around us. I'm not saying that's good
It's
or
really
bad.
interesting hearing that from you. I've sort of come to that realization as well. And I'm part guilty for this because I've spent the last 20 years reviewing every smartphone and every device known to man
Yeah.
and woman. And so I've been part of the hype machine. Maybe you have too, in a little way. I mean, TikTok house and your experience with influencers and helping that
I've made
economy
videos
along.
for smartphones and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is it that makes us now wistful that when we see other people on phones? Like, we've achieved our mission, right? And yet at the same time, I feel a slight sense of emptiness when I see people just with their heads stuck in the front, like Black Mirror-esque, as you said.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of positives about technology and smartphones and the internet. You can check in on your kids, your family, make sure people are safe. Google Maps that I use to get here, sharing photos.
Not familiar with the North Side, no?
I'm just terrible with directions in general. But yeah, it can be kind of daunting when you look around. But a lot of people are being productive and connected on those phones. I think it's about balance. I try and delete the social apps from my phone.
Do you?
I've gone through phases of having the grayscale that takes the color off the screen.
Yep.
Because it can be really addictive and you can spend a lot of time on it. But we've been spending a lot of time on computers the last 20 years doing work, and it's not too dissimilar. That's one thing I've struggled with actually is, technically my career is in the social media space or the internet, and the line between that and work has been blurry. So am I doom scrolling on TikTok or am I doing market research? That's been one for me to manage. So I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know how it plays out. I think we usually adapt to things. And while you said, the iPhone's been around for a good chunk of time, not that long. Not that long.
I mean,
compared to how
I'd
long
have to
we've
take
been
you
around.
up on that. 16 years is a long time.
Such a profound shift to go from where we were to where we are in terms of like instant communication and availability. That's going to take us a couple of decades to adjust to. I'd be hopeful we figure it out, but I don't know.
Okay, well, back to the metaverse then. Are there any practical opportunities that brings up for you with the new company?
Well, one of the coolest things was the Apple Vision Pro.
Yeah.
The idea of having a 70-inch screen, in your pocket. So you're thinking about driving in a car or a train or a plane.
Now, if you have a giant
headset. Yeah, it's still lots more than the 70-inch plasma. But I mean, look, those headsets will get smaller and they'll figure stuff out. So I think that makes it a lot more dynamic. You can advertise on a much bigger screen, create content, entertain, educate. So there's a whole host of stuff there.
What about Neurallink? What do you think of that?
Neuralink, yeah. I struggle to articulate a lot of the stuff I'm thinking. So my friends and family would back me up on that.
Okay.
I've thought
Give me
about
an example of that.
So I can't really give you an example because then I'd have to articulate it. But it often takes me weeks or months to form words around stuff I'm thinking about. And if I had Neuralink, I could just shoot it straight over to you. And I think words in general are lossy. Like we're recording this on video. You can paint, you can be there in person, smell, all that stuff. So words are kind of a very lossy format to transmit ideas in. Neuralink kind of solves that.
So if and when it gets all approvals, in States, in Europe, would you be one of those who will be?
No. As much as I'd love to, I'm
not going to get the wire plugged in.
I'd give it a good while. I'd like to see it. Look, it's scary. I'm kind of a hypochondriac, so as much as I'd love to.
But here's the thing, you see, with Vebellum GIF, would you be in a position to advocate on its behalf or to talk about the pros and cons, say with clients, if, for example, marketing opportunities arise?
Neuralink?
Yeah.
Sure. I don't think we're there yet. I think it's going to be sometime, maybe not even in my lifetime, that we get to talk about Neuralink in the context of content and education. But maybe. I'm not sure.
How many people have you got at the company now?
We've got 5 now.
Okay.
So very early days, but.
And you're up and running?
We're up and running. Yeah.
Are you looking for clients?
We're looking for clients.
Okay.
Of course, always.
What kind of clients are you going after initially?
Probably a lot of the clients I would have worked with back in the video days. So did some work with BMW. I'm doing my best to send them the odd emails and get back in touch. We did some work with Chanel, Samsung, and we're working now with Bunsen, the burger restaurant.
Oh yeah,
my favorite burger in Dublin. They've
nice plug. Yeah, get the plug in there.
Yeah. No.
What would you do, for example, for Bunsen?
So we're doing a lot of work around the brand strategy. They have a really good brand.
Is it a really good brand? Is it?
It's a strong brand. Yeah, it is. In fairness, they're here 10 years now, and we're doing a lot of work on kind of kicking on to the next level for them, and a lot of TikTok.
Okay.
Something they hadn't explored before.
And is that with going back to creators?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that you handling that relationship, or?
So it's not so much influencers. It's us producing kind of creative for them,
okay,
and managing the distribution of it.
So you're getting a lot closer to the traditional role that a traditional advertising firm, which has evolved into taking into all these new activities, is doing.
Yeah. Look, I'm not here saying we're reinventing the wheel. I think it's just a new set of, let's use the advertising word, capabilities. Definitely a new way of working. And I think a lot of the elder firms are shifting that way as well, mainly thanks to technology. Yeah.
Okay, well, Jake Browne, founder and CEO of Vebellum GIF, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. And thanks also to Tabitha Monaghan, who produced, to Conan Doherty on video, and to Gav Hennessy on sound. For me, Adrian Weckler, you've been watching or listening to The Big Tech Show in association with Square. And we'll talk to you the same time next week.
In association with Square. We'll be here same time next week. Bye-bye.